You ever just look out at the world and wonder what makes it all tick? You know, the secret rules that govern life? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on that. We're starting small with just one organism, and then we're going to zoom out step by step to see how everything connects in this huge, complicated web of life. So let's dive in. I mean, those are massive questions, right? How does a single seed become a whole forest? Why do some species just disappear? It sounds like poetry, but the answers are actually rooted in science, in a field called ecology. And the funny thing is, to understand the whole forest, you don't start with the forest. You start with just one group of trees. Okay, so we've got our single organism. Now what? How do we go from looking at one single tree to understanding the whole group? Well, that's kind of the first big leap in ecology. It's all about changing how you look at things, moving from the one to the many. And it turns out, the secret is asking the right questions. All right, picture this. You hear a bird singing. You could ask, how is it making that sound? And you'd get a very mechanical answer, right? It's about its voice box, its syrinx, vibrating bones, the nuts and bolts. But what if you ask, why is it singing? Suddenly you get a completely different story. It's looking for a mate or defending its territory. See, one question is about the how, the other is about the why, the significance. And in ecology, we're obsessed with both. And to really dig into those why questions, we need to zoom in on the first real level of organization in ecology. We call it a population. Now, this isn't just any old group of animals or plants. It's a very specific thing. A group of the same species, all living in the same area, all fighting for the same resources, and, this is the big one, they can all interbreed. And this idea of a population can apply to so many different things. It could be all the cormorants chilling in a wetland, or every single teakwood tree in one part of a forest. It can even be something as tiny as the bacteria in a lab dish, or as beautiful as all the lotus plants in a pond. It's a really flexible concept. So once we've got our population defined, we can start to measure it. And this is where it gets super interesting, because a population has its own unique characteristics. Think of them like vital signs that a single individual just doesn't have. These are things that only pop up when you look at the whole group. Think about it like this. One person is born, that's a birth. But a whole population, it has a birth rate. One person dies, that's a death. But a population has a death rate. An individual is male or female, but a population has a sex ratio. You know, how many males to females. It even has an age distribution. These are things that only make sense when you're looking at the group, not just the individual. Okay, so we know what a population is. We know how to measure its vitals. That brings us to the million-dollar question. What happens next? Over time, does this population grow? Does it shrink? Is it going to boom, or is it going to go bust? To figure that out, we have to look at two basic stories of growth. One is pretty much a fantasy, and the other is the reality check for every living thing on the planet. So path number one is what we call exponential growth. This is the fairy tale version. Imagine a world with unlimited food, unlimited space, zero predators, basically paradise. In a world like that, a population just grows and grows. It doubles again, with nothing to stop it. There's this great old story that shows you just how wild this can get. So, a king offers his minister any reward he wants. The minister, being clever, says, "It's simple. Just give me some wheat on a chessboard. 1 grain on the first square, 2 on the second, 4 on the third. Just double it for every square." The king laughs, right? He thinks, what a modest, silly request. Yeah, he was so wrong. Because by the time they got to that 64th and final square, the king owed him over 18 times quintillion grains of wheat. That's more wheat than has probably ever existed. And that is the mind-blowing power of exponential growth. It sneaks up on you. But, back here in the real world, there's no unlimited anything. Food runs out, space gets crowded. So that fairy tale of exponential growth just can't happen. And that brings us to path number 2, logistic growth. This is nature's big reality check. And the key idea here, the absolute game changer, is something called carrying capacity. We call it TE. Basically, every environment has a hard limit, a maximum population size it can actually support. I love this analogy. It's like nature putting up a giant houseful sign. No more vacancies. So how does this story unfold? Well, it usually happens in a few stages. First, you've got the lag phase. The population is small, just getting its footing. Then things take off. In the acceleration phase, with plenty of resources, growth explodes. It almost looks exponential for a little while, but it can't last. As the numbers go up, competition gets fierce, and growth starts to slow down. That's the deceleration phase. And finally, the population bumps up against that houseful sign, the carrying capacity, and it levels off. This is the asymptote. The whole journey makes this classic S-shaped curve you see in textbooks. Okay, but so far we've been talking about these populations like they're all alone on a desert island. And of course, that's not how it works. In the real world, every habitat is this bustling city of different species, all living together. So to get the full picture, we have to zoom out one more time and look at how all these different populations interact. Let's call them the rules of engagement. And we can break down these interactions pretty simply. If a species benefits, we give it a plus. If it's harmed, it gets a minus. And if it's not really affected, it gets a 0. So you can have a plus-plus, which is mutualism, everybody wins, or a minus-minus, which is competition, everybody loses. Let's check out a few of the most important ones. All right, first up, the classic predation. This is your textbook plus-minus interaction. The predator gets a meal, so that's a plus for them. The prey, well, they get eaten, so that's a big minus. But here's the twist. A predator's job in an ecosystem is way more important and a lot more complicated than just being a killer. Get this, there was this amazing experiment on the American Pacific coast. Scientists went in and removed just one predator, a starfish called piaster. And what happened was shocking. Without the starfish around, a couple of super competitive species just took over everything, crowding out all the others. And within a single year, more than 10 other species went extinct, gone. It turns out the predator wasn't the bad guy. It was the keystone holding the whole community together, making sure everyone had a chance. Next up, we've got competition. This is the minus-minus relationship. It's what happens when 2 or more species are both trying to get the same limited stuff. Food, water, space, you name it. It's a tough world out there, and in this struggle, nobody really wins. It's draining for everyone involved. And sometimes the consequences are absolutely devastating. Take the story of the Abingdon tortoise in the Galapagos. It was doing fine until humans introduced goats to the island. And what happened? The goats were just way better at eating the local plants. They were more efficient browsers. And within just a decade, the tortoises were completely outcompeted for food. They went extinct. A classic, tragic case of competitive exclusion. Okay, it's not all brutal competition and death out there. Let's talk about something more positive. Mutualism. This is the plus-plus interaction, the you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours of the natural world. It's where 2 species team up in a way that helps both of them. It's nature's ultimate win-win scenario. And one of the coolest examples of this has to be the fig and the wasp. It's incredible. See, a certain fig tree can only be pollinated by one specific kind of wasp. And that female wasp, she can only lay her eggs inside that specific kind of fig. They are completely locked into this relationship. They've co-evolved together over millions of years into this absolutely perfect, intricate partnership. So let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about birth rates, carrying capacity, the harsh reality of competition, and these amazing partnerships. These aren't just ideas in a textbook, right? These are the fundamental rules of the game. They're what orchestrates the entire dance of life happening all around us, all the time. And understanding these rules isn't just for ecologists. It's key to understanding our planet, and as we're about to see, it has some pretty big things to say about us, too. Think about it. For the last few centuries, the human population has been on a wild, explosive, exponential growth curve, just like the wheat on that chessboard. But we live on a planet with finite resources, a planet that plays by the rules of logistic growth. So that leaves us with a pretty heavy question, doesn't it? What does nature's carrying capacity, its houseful sign, mean for our future? That's a big one to chew on. Thanks for joining me on this.